Hey guys, welcome to this week's edition of Scruf's Garage. This one I'm particularly excited about. I'm finally installing some race seats in my C5 Corvette. I'm very excited about that. I do have the factory sport seats in my Corvette. They have the adjustable side bolsters and that sort of thing, but for me, somebody of my build, and certainly for track driving, once you get pretty aggressive, they don't hold me in place very well. So that's why I've got these four. I went with the Corbeau FX1. This is going to be the passenger seat, so this is the standard FX1. For the driver's seat, I got the FX1 Pro, which is a little bit more narrow, particularly in the waist area. This one's a little bit wider for my passengers to give them a little bit more room, probably a little bit more comfortable for somebody that rides with me on the street. But for the driver's side, I'm going with a little bit more narrow. To give you a little reference, I'm probably a 31 inch waist. When I sit in this seat, I could probably slide both hands down beside me. So there is some room there. Overall, it seems like a pretty decent seat. The fit and finish seems pretty good. Nothing really to complain about there. All the cushions are Velcro. There's strips of Velcro here, which is nice. That means you can remove things to clean it. Certainly as you do some track driving, get hot and sweaty, they may start to smell, so you could probably bring it out and clean. As far as the material, we'll see how this holds up. It's pretty soft, so overall it's comfortable, but I'm concerned that it may not hold up that great. Just not sure how durable this is going to be, but we'll see. But even these cushions and this back cushion as well, all attached with Velcro, so you can pull them out and clean them if you had to. Some of the high wear areas have these patches of vinyl, so that's a nice option. Maybe you keep that from getting torn or wearing out faster than some of the other areas. Of course, this is the race seat, so it does have the sub-harness hole. I'm going to run a 6-point harness, so that'll be part of the install as well. But then you've got, of course, the side and the shoulder harnesses as well. So overall, I'm excited to get this installed. I do have some Marrad Industries seat tracks that I'll do a review on as well. I think this is going to work out really well. I heard some complaints about the Corbeau seat tracks and mounts not of the greatest quality, so I decided to go with something else. And I'm also going to side mount the seats. You can bottom mount these. They do have the bottom mount pedestals, or you can side mount them. I'm going to go with the side mount option so I can get the rake of the seat in a little bit more comfortable driving position. A lot of guys complain when you bottom mount them, right, you don't have that adjustability, so you end up in too upright position to be truly comfortable. Some guys try to fix that, putting some shims under the mounting feet, and that probably gets it a little bit better, but there are a lot of complaints about that. And certainly when you start talking about headroom, once you have a helmet on, right, that's going to add a couple more inches. I'm not particularly tall, I'm just under 5'10", but certainly if you get over 6 foot or taller than that, especially once you put a helmet on, headroom really becomes a premium. So the ability to tilt the seat back a little bit gains you some headroom, and also makes it a little bit more comfortable of driving position. So that's why I decided to go with the side mount to have some adjustability here. So as I get started in the install, we'll see what it takes to make these things fit and get them into a comfortable driving position. But I do have some good options here with these side mount brackets. So if you're in the market for some race seats at an affordable price, I think the Corbeau FX1 would do a good job for you. So hope you enjoy. Alright, so I wanted to take a second to show you, I've been test fitting the seat on the brackets. Everything's pretty loosely mounted right now. I also put some tape up here to protect the seat. So to give you an idea, so I got the front in the second hole, and then the back is actually in the second hole as well. And now this is not a terribly uncomfortable position as far as the rake of the seat, but it's probably a little too upright to be completely comfortable. So, but I'll show you the problem that you run into. So I can stabilize that. If you're going to bottom mount the seats, these are the pedestals on the bottom of the seat frame. Obviously, this interferes with your side mount L bracket, and it would also interfere with the slider as well, even if that side mount bracket wasn't there. So I can't lower this mounting rear mounting hole anymore because of this pedestal back here. So probably my solution is going to be to cut this off with the Sawzall. That'll gain me probably at least another inch of space, so I can lower the back of the seat. That'll give me a better recline on the seat, which will also gain you some headroom as well. So that's just a visual example. I've seen some pictures where people try to demonstrate the problem, but this is a good example with the seat mounted on the frame rail, so you can see exactly why there's some interference back there. So you probably have to cut this off so we can lower this back mounting point. I could raise the front one more, and that would also recline the seat, but we're trying to gain headroom, so we'd rather be lowering things as opposed to raising even the front. So that'll probably be my next step, is cutting off this rear mounting pedestal. Alright, well, this is the terrifying moment where you cut into your brand new perfect seats. I'm going to cut off the rear mounting pedestals for the bottom mount. I'm going to side mount them, so this needs to go so I can have a little bit more clearance in lowering the seat. Alright, so I thought I might take a moment just to illustrate. You hear a lot of guys talk about needing stud extenders in the back, and once you see it, it's fairly self-explanatory, but if you're like me, when I was initially researching this, I just didn't have a good visual example to reference to understand what they were and where they went. But the problem comes in. So these are my Marrad seat tracks. They have this the rear harness anchoring system built into the back, which makes the mounting foot thicker, about twice as thick as the factory seat track. Then you couple that with the vertical strut rod that goes up to the harness bar. Right, it's got a mounting foot as well, which takes up some additional thickness. And you get to the end, and now there's no room to put the nut on top of the stud, right? So, and even if you could, you'd never get enough of the threads for that to really be a secure fit. So the solution is to extend this, and basically that's it's threaded internally, and it'll stick up a little bit higher. But that means you need to drill out both this mounting foot for the harness bar vertical strut, and I'm also going to have to drill out the base of the seat track as well to clear the additional thickness of the stud extender. So just hopefully that gives you a visual as to what you're working with. I'll show you on the passenger side. I got the stud extender installed. Hopefully you can see that. Not the most level, but you get the gist of it. You can see how it sticks up, but it's a larger diameter, so that's why we'll have to drill out the other two mounting tabs. Hey guys, alright, a quick check-in. So I've tackled one of the hardest parts. So if you recall, on the rear mounting studs, we've got the stud extenders, which are a larger diameter than the factory studs coming up out of the floor pan. It's tricky to enlarge the hole in the back of the seat mounting brackets because it's an oblong hole, so it's not concentric, and your drill bit wants to bounce around. So what I came up with, I'll see if I can pan this around. I rigged up my drill press. This seemed to be the best way to do it trying to drill this by hand with a 3/4 inch drill bit was near impossible. And the seat bracket there in the back, because it's got the harness anchoring system, it's too thick to use the stepped drill bit that I have. I'll show you. See if I can get this aimed. I use this for cleanup, but I ended up using it's a Harbor Freight 3/4 inch drill bit. This is the kit. Are they high-end fancy drill bits? Absolutely not. But you get the whole little 8-piece kit plus this little wood case for $30, and of course you can take a 20% off coupon and save you a few more dollars. So that's what I did, and then I'll show you how that looks once we make it to the car. You see it finally clears the stud extenders there in the back. But this, by far, is a lot of work. Plan on some time with this. There's no easy way to do it. You may have to get like a rasp or something out, because it's hard to center your 3/4 inch drill bit right in the middle of that oblong hole. But anyway, that's what you got to do to get it to clear those stud extenders. So good luck. Alright, so I figured I'd give you a visual on one more modification that will have to be made to the seat brackets. I'm on the passenger side, and this is up against the firewall, the transmission tunnel. This hump you see here in the carpet is the yaw sensor, Y-A-W sensor. I've read that maybe on some other models that sensor is mounted somewhere else, but at least as far as this 2001 model goes, the yaw sensor is here on the passenger side floorboard beside the transmission tunnel. As you can see, that creates a problem, some interference with the seat bracket. There is an angle piece of the seat bracket that comes down and interferes with hits the yaw sensor, which raises the seat bracket up. So that's going to have to be trimmed back. I figure probably about 4.5 inches. I'll come through and I'll cut it back here, and then I'll cut it all the way along the seam up there, and hopefully that will allow the seat bracket to sit down flush to the floorboard on that side. So just plan accordingly. That's another modification that you'll probably have to make depending on the year of your Corvette, but certainly something I'm going to have to do. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a visual on this modification. Okay guys, I just finished modifying the seat bracket to clear the yaw sensor on the passenger side. As we talked about, that sensor is mounted up against the transmission tunnel, and you have to notch the bracket so that it will clear that sensor. So you can see I cut about 4.5 inches back. I think that should give me clearance. I'll test fit it here in a second just to make sure. The vertical cut made with a hacksaw. The main part of this cut I made with a electric cutoff wheel. There's not really room in there to work a hacksaw. Makes a tremendous mess. You can kind of see what I rigged up here. I used the box. So obviously as you're using that cutoff wheel, it throws a ton of metal all over the place. So this is what I did just to try to contain some of that, so it's not all over my toolboxes and the rest of the stuff in my garage. So something to think about. Try to minimize the mess as well. But anyway, that's how I modified the seat bracket to clear the yaw sensor. Okay, so I wanted to give you a visual on what I did for the rear harness mounting points. So I'm going to use these. The angle should be something about like this once they have the harnesses attached. These will be for the lap belts. Right, they'll come up and go around the side. There are holes on the front here. Right, there's a hole there. But since that surface is angled, if I put the eyelet up here, it sticks out like this, and it limits how far back I can move the seat. So the workaround there is not to use the quick clips, but to hard mount the sub-harness mounting points to this cross brace here. I had to drill two 7/16 inch holes. I drilled marked them with a punch. Then I used a small bit to drill a pallet hole, and then I used my stepped drill bit to enlarge it to 7/16. And then this, of course, these nuts and bolts are 7/16 grade 8 bolts. Important that you get some decent hardware here when mounting this. So as you can see, it'll be fairly close, but we should have enough room, even with the adjusters there. You can see how the back of the harness anchoring system looks back here. And interestingly, I think you can see these will probably actually sit down into the carpet just a bit. You would think because of the mounting feet that this would lift it up and there would be room under here. But when you see this installed in the vehicle, these actually kind of sit down, and right, the carpet builds up in here because you got the carpet and the padding. But I don't think I'll have a clearance problem, but these will probably actually be digging into the carpet just a bit for that. So that's how I'm planning to secure everything. And I'm probably actually going to attach the vertical struts for my harness bar to these sad mounting points. There are some brackets that come with the harness bar that come out this way, but it kind of interferes with this. And since this is integrated anyway, those vertical struts I'll probably attach here, which is why I'm not using this hole for my lap belts. So that's my plan at the moment. Hopefully all goes well once it's in the car. Okay, so I'm to the point. I'm ready to make my final seat mounting and tightening everything up. These come loosely assembled. Everything's semi-snug, but allows you to move things around. You can only tighten these with the seat off. But of course, once you take the seat off, then things aren't held in place anymore and they can move around. So while I had the seat on and I had test fitted in the car and I knew what would work, I put a couple of marking points here. I used a silver paint pen. You can pick that up at Lowe's or Harbor Freight or somewhere like that. But it's easy. That way I made an alignment mark on the track, and then on the sad brackets, did the same thing over here. You can't see it. These I had to mark the rear from the bottom, because once you have the seat on here, you can't mark up here. But hopefully that will allow me to align the sad mount, these L brackets. I can tighten those up, and then I can put the seat back on and tighten it, to the sad mount. So that's where I'm headed, just to give you a quick idea as to how to get those tightened, and hopefully that helps. Okay, so a check-in. I've got the seat mounted on my brackets. I've got all that snug down. So at that point, I was ready to start mounting my harnesses. And before I show you that, just to show you where I ended up mounting the seat versus the different mounting holes. So the front, I mounted all the way to the top. The back is in this middle hole. You physically cannot get the back any lower than what it is. So this is as low as you'll possibly be able to get this seat. So just a visual what we got going there. So obviously this is as high as you can get the front. So this is the maximum amount of rake you can put in that seat. So from there, we're ready to start mounting the harnesses. Right, so your sub harnesses, they run up through the hole. They come back here to the back. We talked about that earlier. I drilled some holes and I got those tight. Keep in mind, you have to begin adjusting these, how much slack you need, based on where the seat's going to sit on the track, right? Because these have a fixed mounting point, yet the seat is adjustable forward and rear. So all the way forward, this might end up being too short. If I adjusted it for all the way forward, when I get to the back, it might be too long. So you really have to adjust that based on where you're going to have the seat mounted front to rear when you're on the track, and then adjust these accordingly. If you have multiple drivers, then you may have to find a compromise position, because you don't want this obviously too low, and you don't want this too high. If this is up in your abdomen, you've got it too high, and you can cause some very serious internal organ damage if you have this mounted in the wrong position. Really, these lap belts should go across your pelvic bone. So you'll probably have to test fit these several times, sitting in the seat, seeing where that puts you, and then adjusting accordingly. I had to make a couple of different adjustments. For the lap belts, so I bought the style that is what they call pull up, which means you pull on the strap upward to shorten it, versus pull down, where this piece would be reversed, and you would pull downward to make the strap shorter. The problem is you never have enough room on the sides of the seats to pull downward, at least not in a Corvette, or the Miata I had before was a pull down adjustment, and I could never really get the lap belts adjusted tight enough. So when I got the Corvette, I decided to go for the pull up adjustment. It does end up with some extra fabric here kind of flopping around, but you can just lay that over once you've got it adjusted like you want. The other thing to note here is that this the buckle or adjuster here is too large to fit through the side hole. So I knew to be able to shorten this and then also to release tension, I knew this needed to be on the inboard side of the seat. So that means I had to adjust this side in length accordingly, so that this was positioned inside. If I shortened this and had that adjuster all the way back here, that would work, because I could add slack on this side, but I'd never be able to loosen it, because I need to be able to pull on this tab to loosen the seat belt. So really that needs to be on the inboard side, and then you shorten this accordingly, or lengthen it wherever you need it to get to go here. And then I'll make a final adjustment here. You can loop that back through one more time to hold it back. So that's a visual on how the sub belts and the lap harnesses fit into the seat. And you do need to get these adjusted before you mount this in the car. You'll never have enough room to make adjustments otherwise. But that just gives you a visual as to how this played out. Hope this helps. Okay, we made some real progress here. So just one tip, keep in mind you're going to need a 1 1/16 socket that you may have to go out and buy like I did. This is to tighten the nut for the stud extenders. It's a fairly large nut. It was 1 1/16, so you may not have this in your standard set, but Advanced Auto Parts had that for me. They're right down the street, so that's where I went. So here is the passenger seat in all its glory. I've got the harnesses mounted. That's completely installed, and I'll show you with the door closed. Right, I can still get, I can slide a finger through there between there and the door frame. It is close everywhere, even on the right here where the parking brake is. That's snug. And you'll notice at the moment that I don't have the seatbelt receiver mounted, and we'll try to find a workaround. The factory seatbelt receiver has a rigid extension that's not flexible enough. It ends up, even if I could get it down through here, it sticks up, and the factory 3-point wouldn't lay across your pelvic bone. So I'm going to see if I can find an extension on the nylon webbing that I can mount, and we'll see if that may work out a little bit better, and I'll be able to route it up through that side opening just like the harnesses do. But overall, The FX1 does fit, but it is snug everywhere. It almost defeats the purpose of having it on the sliders. There's very little adjustment front to rear, just because it rubs the transmission tunnel so badly. But there it is. That's passenger side installed. Now I can move on to the driver's side, which will hopefully go a little bit quicker and a little bit easier. A little bit of learning curve on this side, plus the driver's side seat's going to be a little bit smaller, or not quite as wide as this one. So hopefully that goes a little bit better, but we'll keep plugging away. So I thought I'd just share one thing. So this is the driver's side seat bracket. Been test fitting it in the car. Interestingly, I'm not able to get it close enough to the steering wheel, or at least for where I'm comfortable for when I'm on the track. On the street it'd probably be okay. On the track I'd like to sit just a little bit closer, just for the throw of the clutch and how close I sit to the steering wheel. I don't want my arms extended as much as they are. I like to keep it a little closer to the chest. So as you can see on this seat L bracket I've still got on here, you've got additional mounting slots as you come down. So I'm just going to move it one notch. Looks like that's going to be about 3/4 of an inch between each of these mounting points. So I'm going to move it forward just a little bit. I don't want to move it too far forward. The head of this bolt isn't far from hitting the bottom of the seat. The bottom of the seat sits right in here right now because it's kind of parallel with these mounting points. But as I begin moving it forward, that may be an interference. So I don't want to get crazy and move it, 2 or 3 all the way to the rear. I don't think that's going to be good. The other thing I'll show you, and sometimes it can be tricky to get to hold a nut while it's in here. So one trick you can do is take a piece of tape on your wrench, and that'll let you stick the nut in there so that you can hold it, and then you can slide it in and get the bolt started that way. That way you're not trying to finagle with that. So just a little trick, maybe to save you some hassle. But hope that helps. Okay, so I want to give you a general idea of what it looks like me in my driving position with a helmet on, just so you can get a visual of clearances. So I'll see if I can do this from the side. Me sitting pretty much in the upright position. I have just a little bit of clearance up top. Obviously, if I adjust in my seat, I can hit the ceiling. And I have very little clearance over to the side. I hit my head pretty quickly. But in my normal driving position, I'm pretty much okay. I can get a little bit of head movement and turn side to side. So just give you a kind of a visual on where I ended up in the vehicle. Okay, so here's a final installed look at the Corbeau seats. Like I said, I've got the FX1 Pro, which is a little bit more narrow. Here on the driver's side, it fits me fairly well. I did manage to shoehorn in the standard FX1 on the passenger side. It is wider, so there's definitely more room in the seat, but it makes it much more difficult to get it to fit. And I had to forego the seatbelt receiver on that side. You see on this side, I did manage to get it installed over here, and it actually works out fairly well when the this comes over and clicks in. It's not ideal, right? You want this to end up kind of across your pelvic bone, but it gets pretty close when you actually are sitting in the seat. It's not too bad. So I got the harness bar in. We can't see that too well. I also do my GoPro mount back there. The seats, fairly comfortable. Not the greatest thing I've ever sat in, but they do hold me much more securely than the factory seats did. So from that perspective, they are significantly better. You could probably gain a little bit more
head clearance room if you needed to by taking out the bottom cushion. That cushion, as you can see, it's a good maybe 1.5 inches thick. So you could get a little bit more head clearance room that way if you needed to. Maybe do a thinner pad or something under there on the track if you needed a little bit more clearance once you've got a helmet on. Like I said, I'm 5'9", maybe 5'10". With the helmet on, I fit okay. Overall, I do plan on quite a bit of time to get these installed and to fit correctly. Your back will hurt from taking the seats in and out repeatedly, getting the fitment right before you make your final tightening of all the nuts and bolts, that sort of thing. There's quite a bit of bracket modification that has to be done. Right, we had to clear the yaw sensor on the passenger side by the transmission tunnel, so the seat bracket had to be notched there. To mount the sub harnesses, we had to drill 2 holes in the rear anchor mounting system. We had to enlarge the holes to clear the stud extenders, so that was a lot of work. So several different things we had to do. We also had to cut the rear mounting pedestals off the bottom of the seats. That way we could get as much rake to the seats as possible to get a more comfortable seating position, and also gains you a little bit of headroom. I took some measurements on the passenger side. I gained maybe 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch of head clearance. On the driver's side, somehow I actually lost a little bit of head clearance, 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch less, which I guess, being able to keep the seat tracks, I guess that's not too bad. I'm curious to anybody who's used the Corbeau seat tracks, what they thought. Corbeau seat tracks would be a little bit cheaper, though you'd have to buy a separate harness anchoring system, which obviously adds some expense too. But overall, I'm pretty happy. I've got a track day coming up just 7 days from now, so I have a better feedback once I've had a track day in these seats and these harnesses. That's when I'll really be able to tell how they do. But I hope you enjoyed. Good luck if you're tackling this project yourself. Be prepared for some tough work. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time on Scruf's Garage.